Hello everybody, Gareth here, sportsintelligence.com. So now we're going to get into the content of what this model and framework and approach and skills and so on actually looks like. But the first part we need to remember, a couple of fundamentals. One is that you're going to hear about a 6-component model. It's not a hierarchy. In other words, you've got to get one right and then progress to number 2, number 3, number 4. It's not like that. They run in parallel. They are linked. They are integrated. In other words, they are a system. So you're going to hear about a neurophysiological component, a cognitive component, an emotional one, a team/group component, a societal component, and a metaphysical component. They are interacting and part of one system. Let me illustrate what a system is, because some people battle to get it, and I use a simple framework to explain the nuances. We all drive cars or been in cars, so think of your motor vehicle. A car key is a simple part of the system of driving a car. It's like the gear lever. It's a simple part of it. But my car is also complicated. It will take a while for you to understand how a car works. It's not easy to know how modern cars work. I know mine is particularly complex. When I take it in for a service, they attach an iPad and there's a diagnostic completed. When they said they're doing a diagnostic on my car, I nearly died. I thought you only did diagnostics on people, but the diagnostic showed and indicated a number of dimensions, and it said, oh, this is quite complicated. But car traffic is complex. Car traffic is chaotic. Has anybody traveled to Nigeria? Good heavens, have you tried to travel around Lagos? That is complex, it's chaotic, it's going all over the place. Or in India. I drove a tuk-tuk in India. It was fantastic, but I went around that circle about 20 times before I got out of, because it's chaotic, but there is a system, there is an orderliness and approach to it. So the components which I'm going to talk about were identified by completing all of the research that I've told you about. The headlines, and we're going to have a separate module on each of these, but the headline for now is component 1 is a biological component, a neurophysiological subsystem. It's how our brain operates and how it interacts with our environment and with the rest of the world. So we're going to talk about the brain, its functioning, and what you can do to ensure that your brain works and works well in competition, post-competition, off-season, while on holiday, pre-competition, pre-season, etc. The second component is what I'm calling a rational or a cognitive subsystem. That's the stuff that makes logical sense. In other words, know the principles and the practical underpinnings of your athletic endeavor. It's important to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Component 3, your emotional world. Understand how your emotions influence and impact, both positively and potentially destructively, impacts your performance and how they drive almost all of our behavior. So understanding and knowing our missing link, as I referred to in the previous insert, is significant. Number 4, team component, group component. We're all part of a team, whether that's just our coach, our manager, whether it's 15 or 16 other players or larger squads, how we interact and our influence and impact on them and them on us. You always hear coaches talking about we are aligned, we followed our processes as a team, we're all on board. Almost every interview that I hear from a successful coach talks about having got his team to buy into the process. You'll hear that. Think of me when you see that the next time. The component number 5 is the societal component. We live in a world where so much is happening. and the influences of society and how they drag us into different directions, and how we under competing pressures and a range of tensions that pulls us into different directions. How do we keep our wits and our minds about us, so that when some of our friends perhaps are going out and having a party, but we need to be tucked up in bed or in the gym, then how do we deal with those pressures? It's very significant, especially to my teenage athletes. And then finally, component number 6, our beliefs, our belief about the world, our belief about how sport and our athletics can contribute to a better life for ourselves, for the people around us, for our family, for our friends, for our communities, for our networks. And this was so interesting, guys and girls, when I was doing this research, because it hardly featured in the research and the reading and the literature and the cases and so on that I went through. But it was so evident in my interviews, is our beliefs about ourselves, about the world, and how our athletics can make a positive and meaningful contribution. We'll talk about that later.